Brett Okamoto with UFC President Dana White following UFC 241 at the Honda Center in Anaheim. The fights were so good that Dana sweat through his suit, apparently. He had to run to the back. That's why he's wearing a T-shirt. But it was a good night of fights, right?
It was very good, yeah.
Let's start with the main event. You just got out of Daniel Cormier's locker room. I know you're very close to him. You went in there. What'd you say to him?
Yeah, I told him what a great fight it was. You know, Stipe Miocic came to win tonight. He didn't come to lose. You know, Cormier hit him with everything, and Stipe stayed in the fight. And I don't know when he went back to his corner who came up with the body shot game plan, but brilliant. Brilliant the way he started going to the body to eventually pull off the win. You don't see heavyweight fights like this. These two fought like middleweights tonight. Yeah. Non-stop punching, both guys moving forward, you know, two immovable objects just coming forward and trying to win. It was as good a heavyweight fight as you will ever see.
Hoping to speak to him in a second. I mean, everybody knows how competitive DC is. How was he when you were in there talking to him?
He's super bummed, you know, and he keeps saying, I was winning that fight, I was winning that fight. Listen, he's one of the greatest guys to ever do it. He's one of the greatest human beings ever, and he's had an amazing career. And I told him, don't even think about fighting or not fighting or any of that stuff tonight. Just go home and enjoy your family, and all that stuff will work itself out in the future.
How about you, though? Because obviously that was a big storyline coming in. How many does he have after this? Does he have any after this? And like you said, he looked great in the opening. I mean, the guy's throwing punches like a 30-year-old through the first 3 rounds of that, but then he gets knocked out, and we all know he's 40 years old, and he had plans to retire. What do you think about the future of his career tonight? Your first impression?
First of all, I think that Stipe was in phenomenal shape. Right when they came out and Buffer was announcing, you could see the shape that Stipe was in. And mentally, Stipe was in a great place. And Stipe's one of the greatest ever, too, in the heavyweight division. You know, there's nothing to be ashamed with tonight, either guy. No matter how this fight went. If Stipe lost, if Stipe won, if Cormier lost or won, the fight was ridiculous. And both guys gave everything they had. Stipe came out on top. You know, maybe there's a trilogy out there. Maybe, you know, how are you, sir? Maybe there's a, you know, maybe Cormier retires. You know, does the fight happen with Ngannou now and Steve? Who knows? That will all play out over the next several weeks or months. And I think that both guys, Stipe and Cormier, should just, you know, be proud of what happened in there tonight. It was as awesome a heavyweight fight as you will ever see.
I totally agree. Elite level heavyweight mixed martial arts. And I know that a lot has to happen, so you're not going to make a decision on what's going to happen with the heavyweight division, but you did mention the trilogy. You do think that, I mean, it's 1-1, that would be at least of some interest to you. That would for sure be a consideration. You think that it warrants that?
It makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. If both guys wanted that, then yeah. And I mean, if you look at Cormier, I said that coming into this fight. He was saying, I convincingly won the first fight. You know, don't know how much longer I'm going to fight. There's a couple other fights I want out there instead of Stipe right now. But he did. He took the Stipe fight, and now maybe Stipe reciprocates, and they do that again, or maybe he retires, or maybe Stipe wants Ngannou, and I don't know. I don't know how this plays out. There's a lot of different ways that it could, and we'll have to find out.
One thing you have always said about Nate Diaz is that when he signs on and he's committed to it, he shows up to fight, and he showed up to fight tonight, I thought. What did you think about his performance?
Yes, he did. He looked good. And if you look at that fight on paper, how does he beat Pettis? How does he beat Pettis on paper? You know what I mean? I figured Pettis would tear that front leg apart with leg kicks. He started to do that early on. Nate looked like he gassed out, you know, at the end of the first round. And then he got a second win. He turned the fight, you know, and started fighting the fight that he wanted to fight. And if you look at the 3-year layoff, to come back and beat Pettis, who's looked phenomenal in his last couple of fights, very impressive.
And I think that, you know, you take those 3 years off, it was always sort of this weird situation where Nate was at lightweight, and then, you know, the two fights with Conor happened at welterweight. Now when I look at him and I see him in the octagon there, he does look like a welterweight to me now. He looks like he could have a real future at welterweight, which maybe I didn't feel like before. Is that what you're seeing in there?
But he always did to me. He always looked big to me. I thought he was a big 55-pounder. I always thought he did. But I thought Max Holloway was a big 45-pounder too, and I thought he could fight at 55, but he couldn't. But I always did believe that Diaz looked big.
So Nate had a name in mind, Street Jesus, Jorge Masvidal. He was in the front row. He seemed happy about the call out. You interested in that fight?
Who isn't interested in that fight? I mean, that's a very interesting fight.
Yeah. To the build up to this, I mean, like always, you get asked a million questions about Conor McGregor, and one thing that you had said is that, well, this fight may have an impact on Conor's future, and of course, the fight against Khabib and Dustin might have an impact on Conor's future. Now we've seen one of them. What impact do you think tonight's result had on Conor, if any?
I actually haven't looked at my phone yet, so I don't know if it's had any. If it did, there's something on my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had to guess right now, if you got a text message from Conor McGregor, what do you think?
I'd say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the third fight, Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero. Paulo's been obviously a guy who's been on a run for you in this middleweight division. Yoel is a guy who's been there time and time again. What did you think about that fight?
It was everything I thought it was going to be. I thought it would be fight of the night. It is fight of the night. And that fight was ridiculous. I mean, two monsters just blasting. And it's funny because I actually had 2 rounds to 1 for Costa. And so many other people had 2 rounds to 1 for Romero. It was a fun fight. It was a fun fight. You know, either way that fight would have gone, you wouldn't have been like, oh my God, this is a robbery. You know, it was that much of a war, that close. And they both deserve the bonus money too. It was a great fight.
Well, I talked to Paulo, and he says he's got plans now to buy a ticket to Melbourne and be there to see that awesome middleweight title fight between Whitaker and Adesanya. Is he next in your mind?
I'll buy him a ticket to Melbourne.
You'll buy it for him.
I'll buy it. Yeah, I'll buy the ticket.
Is there any way we could see him in a backup role? I know you guys have been doing that occasionally with a big fight. Would you put him in that situation? Especially with the, you know, I hate to bring it up, but Whitaker's history in Australia. Would you use him as a backup?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what our plan is right now, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he could make weight again that fast.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Okay, last question for you. It's just on to the next one. Abu Dhabi, big fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Dustin Poirier. I know you sometimes occasionally keep in contact with those guys. What have you been hearing from Khabib and Dustin?
China is the next big one.
Sure.
I'm excited about China. I'm excited about, you know, this is obviously a massive fight for China if Weili Zhang can win the fight. And then it's a big fight for Brazil. Brazil loves champions. Brazil loves having titles. And if Andrade can win, she keeps the belt in Brazil. So this is a very big, important fight in that division and obviously in those 2 countries. And I'm flying out there for that one. And then I go straight from there to Abu Dhabi. And so I'm looking forward to that too. The government of Abu Dhabi has set it up for me, Dean Thomas, and Matt Serra to all go out there together, and they're literally setting us up with these cool things to do every day. One day we're going on a yacht. The next day we're racing Formula 1 cars. We're doing all this cool stuff, and we're going to do. You know how we usually do looking for a fight.
Yeah.
This is looking forward to a fight. The fight is Khabib and Poirier. So it's going to be a fun week in Abu Dhabi. The Red Hot Chili Peppers are performing in the stadium they're building for us on Wednesday, and the fight on Saturday. So I can't wait.
Good to be Dean Thomas and Matt Serra, I think,
really
to tag along to something like
It
that.
really is good to be them.
Well, the last question I'll ask, and I asked about the backup for Paulo Costa. How about a backup for that fight? Tony Ferguson, is there any interest in flying him out to Abu Dhabi and having him weigh in just in case something were to happen?
Pretty sure we have something set up for that. Yeah, pretty sure we do.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, I will check back
I don't
on
even want to talk about. Why are you talking about all these negative things about backups for people falling out? Huh?
I think what it was.
Are you trying to jinx me?
I think what it was is it was a very early phone call on the morning of the Whitaker fight where you woke me out of bed and said that we were losing the main event. So
I don't even want to talk about these things.
positive vibes. Positive vibes. Every fight's staying together.
Yeah.
These fights tonight were absolutely terrific. Congratulations on a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming and special content, subscribe to ESPN+.